Leadership, lived experience, and the future of inclusive housing. A culminating conversation weaving together Dana's roles as a parent, advocate, and leader. This episode reflects on the stories shared throughout the season, the housing crisis, facing adults with IDD, and a call to action for community-driven change and collective responsibility. Dana Hooper is a social entrepreneur and committed advocate for the rights of the disability community and holds an MBA from the Simons Business School at the University of Rochester. Prior to moving to the nonprofit sector, Dana worked in high-tech marketing and business development for many years. Soon after, his son, Brent, was diagnosed with an intellectual and developmental disability. Dana recognized the civil rights issue that was created by institutions for people with disabilities. For over 20 years, Dana has fought for the rights of people with disabilities and a system that provides quality and non-institutional services. During his tenure in the disability community, Dana has served as board president of directors for San Andreas Regional Center and chair of the finance and audit committees for Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And Dana currently serves as executive director of Life Services Alternatives, or LSA, a Campbell-based nonprofit that provides housing and programs for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Through his leadership, LSA has grown to over 70 adults and 16 homes and a day program throughout Santa Clara County. Dana continues to move the needle in residential living as he works tirelessly with state and local governments on affordable housing, quality services, and human rights. Dana's advocacy influenced the 2022 state budget that will fill an almost $2 billion funding gap for the developmentally disabled community over a period of 4 years. Dana advocates for inclusive communities and housing models that meet the needs of all and allow individuals to receive lifelong services while living within a community, not an institution. I'm Hadia Fain. I am your host, and I am the marketing and development vice president for Life Services Alternatives. I'm very happy to be here with you on our final episode for this season, and a special, just decided, hour-long special focusing in on our executive director, his tenure, and his cross-sector over many, many different communities. And possibly for those of you who are watching, possibly one of the most important communities, which is the community that we've been serving at LSA for the last 24 years. If you're watching this and you know that some of the things are about to be said are pertaining to you, I would advise you to get settled in, buckle up, get some food, maybe some popcorn, and sit back and listen, because this Mountain Climbers is going to be a special one indeed, in which we're going to focus on, someone who's climbed a mountain a couple times, and we'll get into that right now. Welcome, Dana.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. I mean, I hope I can live up to that introduction.
You've already lived it.
Wow.
You've already lived it. And I know that you haven't seen all the episodes because at the time of this particular recording, they haven't come out yet. But we sat with a lot of people. And by far, of all the people that we sat with, you've done enough for 2 lifetimes. And so we're gonna make sure that we go and wade through some of that. When people come on this show and they talk about their experience, one of the first things that we talk about are their highs and lows. But I think for this conversation's sake, and also to keep our listeners and viewers watching, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Well, I treated myself to scrambled eggs and my favorite toast with jelly.
Okay, so a simple breakfast for a complicated man? Would you say you're complicated?
I don't feel like I'm complicated.
Okay. Help me understand, what do you think describe something, a scenario that's complicated for you? Because you make a lot of things look easy.
What's complicated? I think sometimes it's complicated to figure out what the right thing is. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, once I feel like I, understand it and I processed it, and it's clear. It's a lot clearer, what direction to take, what to do. Yeah, so I tend to look at things in a thoughtful way, and sometimes that makes it complicated.
I'm gonna have to listen back to that one myself. But let's break it down for those who are watching. You tend to look at things in a thoughtful way. I know that you have many areas in your life in which, particularly, things have been complicated, but you seem to excel in all of them. Can you think of a specific moment where things were just extremely complicated, but you saw straight through to what needed to be done?
I don't know if this fits that bill completely, but I think when I realized that my son Brent was special and that there wasn't any obvious way to fix him, that to me was really complicated because I had no idea what that might look like. And yeah, that was a real challenge. And you kind of had to take it, one day at a time instead of, having a plan or having a solution and having it all, kind of laid out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was very challenging for me. And nobody really had answers, and just kind of came round and round in terms of, well, if there's no diagnosis, how can there be a treatment, and what are we going to do, and what will ultimately will his life look like, what will our life look like together?
Yeah. And it seems like, especially because of the scenario and the way in which, you found out about Brent's IDD diagnosis, intellectual or developmental disability diagnosis, that it kind of hit you and Kathleen like a ton of bricks. Can you take me back to that? I know that we've had other moms and dads on this show and siblings, but there's always a moment for people where they realize that this is the diagnosis, and it seems like, especially for fathers, they want to be able to fix it.
Yeah,
Dads want to.
I definitely wanted to fix it, and in my case, my best friend was in medical school, and so I kept asking him about it, and he was the one who kind of laid it out for me, and they didn't call it a disability. He was developmentally delayed, and I'm like, Jim, what does this look like? And I'd already witnessed the fact that, he wasn't crawling like other kids his age. And, later he wasn't able to, stand up or walk when they were standing up or walking. And, so I guess I went through that journey with him, kind of helping me understand what the delay looks like and what it might mean. But there were no answers. Well, I guess at one point there was an answer. He prematurely, skull closed prematurely, and so we need to go in and do brain surgery, and open up these closed segments of his skull so that his development could proceed. And it came right down to the morning he was supposed to have surgery, and he actually had a cold, and it needed to be postponed. But I was just ultimately uncomfortable that that was the problem, and therefore that was the right solution. So that was kind of some ways divine intervention, that we didn't go ahead with that surgery, and then thought more about it and thought, no, that's not the way That's not the way to solve this problem. Um, Ultimately, we need to accept him for how he is, and what he could be, instead of trying to fix it, right? And I think that was probably the first time where you kind of had to see a path forward, right? It's acceptance, and then making it, making it working to make it better.
Yeah. A lot of people over the years that I've been working with you, a lot of families have come to you, and not all of them are on camera or in front of a crowd or, my God, even physically show up in the office. If I had a nickel for every time you were on the phone with a different
Yeah.
family member or someone in which you were pointing the way forward for them, even if it's you're not telling them exactly what to do. May I be a rich woman? I think you were in that moment and you knew exactly what to do, exactly what was right. Was your dad like that? How did you know to provide that type of guidance, that type of leadership, that type of foresight? And especially in a matter which I'm assuming was extremely emotional. This was your first son, your first child.
Yeah. Well, I certainly didn't know back then, right? And it was really challenging. I mean, I was brought up in a family where everybody was expected to be and do a lot,
Yes.
and I'm the oldest son,
Wow.
and Brent's the oldest son of the oldest son, and he isn't that guy. He's not that guy. He's not the one. He's not going to be an all-American football player. He'll be lucky if he can grow up and graduate from high school. So yeah, I think it was really tough. There's kind of that soul searching. This must be my fault. It's our fault.
Oh, wow.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Right? And then, then at some point, just acceptance. And I don't think my parents ever really understood, and not that they didn't try, but, it was difficult for them, and ultimately he wasn't that first grandchild that they were expecting. They, obviously were supportive and they accepted it, but there weren't a lot of answers then, and of course I was right in the middle of my own development. Right, I'm in my early mid-20s, and dealing with the first child, and dealing with this work thing, and
Back then, people could be 20 years old and have a house, a full career, and a family.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work basketball in.
Oh,
and
wow.
running,
and then let's just like
all that other stuff that I love to do.
Yeah.
But so back then the answer wasn't really obvious. So now sitting here, 50, 60 years later, yeah, I can have a lot of empathy with those parents. I can, pull from my own experience, and and of course help be a resource, because I do know a bit about what options are available now that weren't there.
I think there's something that we haven't talked about, and I think I might have asked you just after I lost my son, but I feel like I know I was very emotional, and so maybe I put it in the back of my mind. Um, I asked you because you have twins after Brent. I asked you, when did you decide to start again? How did you know that was traumatic? Not in the sense, I know you love Brent. I know you and Kathleen love him dearly and couldn't see life without him today. But back then, it must have been terribly frightening after, your first time out the gate. So when did you get to that point where you were like, hey, look, that was that. It was no one's fault. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we did some soul searching, right? I mean, asking the doctors, right? Is this genetic? Is it, is this something that happened during pregnancy, or again, trying to, I guess, search for whether or not where there's any reason not, to make an effort for another child. And, nobody had the answers, but they did reassure us that it appeared as though it's something that was unique to that pregnancy, not generic or not. So, yeah, we want it. We want to have. I don't know that we thought of it in these terms, but yeah, we want to have a normal child, or we wanted to have more than one child. And who would have guessed we'd end up with two twins? And then all hell broke loose. Right? If you can imagine having not two kids in diapers, but three kids in diapers, and then all of a sudden, the two kids in diapers are out of diapers, but you still have one in diapers, right?
Wait, how far apart are Brent and your twins?
A couple of years.
Oh, so you guys wanted to get right back on the horse.
Well, I don't know that that's the term that I would use, but you never know once you start trying. It could have ended up being, more years. But then, you fast forward and Brent still is 10 and he's still not potty trained. And, he's, mobile, but, doesn't have a lot of fine motor skills and can't really communicate particularly, and right, so that part of development, stayed with us for many years. The twins went through it, and moved on. But it was crazy for the first couple of years.
I can imagine. I mean, not much, but I can imagine. What is it that your life looked like just as Brent was coming out of school?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess at that point, Brent had moved away from a special school to being in special ed class at the same high school that his sister and brother were, stars at. And so, I mean, he was really, enjoying that status. And we were kind of confronted with the what's next, right? I mean, he loved school, and he loved the programs and all of that kind of stuff. But there wasn't any obvious, you should apply to colleges and go off to college, and maybe go to trade school, or get a summer job, figure out what you want to do, kind of stuff. And so we had this amazing special ed teacher, Holly Wade, and she was, well, there is stuff out there. There's this new thing called supported living, and you find a place, to live, and then you get the support that he'll need to live. And so we started looking at options, and because it just seemed like the right thing to do. You get born, you grow up at home, you you know go to high school, and then you go on, live the rest of your life. So I guess we still thought that's what we should be doing for Brent, is figuring out what the next really is. And I mean, so Holly really helped us understand the options. Um, my mom really became inspirational. Um, you know, I mean, we helped with the college education of Brent's siblings, and we want to help with what's next for Brent. And so, long story short, we looked at all these options, and we decided that if Brent could find a place to live in a supported living agency, this would be the best for him. That we didn't like the idea of a group home. We didn't see a good one. Doesn't mean there wasn't one out there. He was not able to live independently, needed way too much support. And Joe, my mom, helped us find a house and buy it. And then Brent moved in as our first renter. Gave him a good deal, but
Okay, well, that's nice.
and we got an agency, J. Nolan Community Services, and his support staff were roommates, and so they moved in, and I immediately knew it was going to be a raging success. Like a couple weekends in, he came home Friday night for the weekend. And I'm like, well, we got to do this. This is going to be really great, right? So Jake's Pizza, tradition for Friday night, try to make sure that it's special and all that kind of stuff. So Brent has Jake's Pizza, and after dinner he says home, right? Like,
that was fun.
Thanks, Dad, but nice to visit, but I want to go back to my house. And so I realized that was not his house anymore, not his home. He had his own home, and that he loved, and it wasn't all serendipity. There were lots of bumps and stuff in the road, but then he was happy with his house, and he loved his roommates, and met new people and did new things, and wasn't constrained by his overprotective parents. I meant to say mom, but I said parents.
Oh, well, you're going to strike that from the record?
But trying to make sure that he doesn't get hurt.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. It sounds like you switched from keeping Brent safe to letting him live his life.
Yeah.
We're going to get into what that family dynamic was like that was keeping Brent safe. We're going to talk a little bit more about Dana's journey because this was just one of the mountain peaks. And for some of you listening, that's more than enough. But it sounds like there was another valley just shortly after Brent left and got his own place. And now your twins are off to college. And if you want to hear more about that, we're asking you to stay tuned to the next episode because this is a two-parter. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that next mountain and next valley looked like. Because it was not, in fact, as many of you will find out and have found out, and Dana just alluded to, there were still other bumps, peaks, and valleys to go through to get to where he is today. And I, for one, am extremely interested. So join us next time on the next episode for this two-parter, where we talk more about Dana Hooper and his life. And if you've been tuning in, I would advise you to look at all the other episodes that led up to this one, because they surely will give a lot of context of where we've gotten to now. Thank you again for watching. As always, we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.